Now let's define the risk and know more about the network intrusion techniques. The risk is what security deals with. The risk is the goal of security to be minimized. Security deals with managing risk to your critical assets. Security is basically an exercise in loss reduction, in risk elimination. It's impossible to totally eliminate risk, but you are practicing and applying your security technologies to make risk as minimum as possible. The risk assessment is a branch and a very well known section in the cybersecurity that you can be specialized into, and your goal would be to determine the sources of risk and to minimize them or eliminate them as much as you can. Risk is the probability of a threat crossing or touching a vulnerability. Risk is when the threat meets the vulnerability, and then both of them, if of high probability, then the risk is of high probability. Let's have a look at this formula. Risk equals threat multiplied by vulnerabilities multiplied by impact. Sometimes it is threat multiplied by vulnerabilities only, but here we are introducing the complete formula. If the threat is high, the vulnerabilities are high, then the risk would be very high. You have very high risk, and you should address and you should know how to eliminate. For example, the threat may be an attacker who is good at password guessing. The vulnerability may be some users that are not good at choosing their passwords. If both meet, then the probability of cracking the passwords would be very high. If one of them is existing and the other is not there, I mean if the attacker is there but users are using strong passwords, so the risk is less, the risk is smaller, and the risk can be handled in easier way. But if both are high, so it is something that we should take care of, and we should try to minimize either the threat or minimize the vulnerability. What about the impact? The impact is the third element that affects the risk. We can imagine at our example if there is an attacker who is trying to guess a password for an account that has no value, that is useless, and at the same time the vulnerability is there because the user creating this account has used a weak password. You will imagine that the attacker can guess the password easily, but the impact of this password guessing and the impact of this loss of this account is small. So it is not of a big importance, it's not of a big deal. So the impact of losing this account is small, so this leads to a very small risk at the end. What are the intrusion detection techniques and what are the risks of intrusion detection? We can have some information theft. Breaking into computer to obtain confidential information means breaking the confidentiality of the information. Information can be used or sold for various purposes according to this theft. Data loss and manipulation, breaking onto a computer to destroy or alter data records, which means destroying means breaking the availability and altering means breaking the integrity of the data records. Identity theft, you may think first of stealing the username and password of someone before accessing his account and destroying his information. For example, personal information is stolen for the purpose of taking over someone's identity. Using this information, anyone can obtain legal documents, can apply for credits, and make authorized online activities. So, identity theft is the first step towards information theft. Identity theft is not a goal by itself, but it can be a step towards more dangerous attacks. Disruption of service or denial of service is preventing legitimate users from accessing services to which they should be entitled, which means breaking the availability of the service. Something that is very dangerous, of very high impact, and can be caused sometimes very easily by taking off the power supply of this router or of this server to cause this website to be down for some time. So the disruption of service is some risk of network intrusion. If you take off the power of the access point, the router, the switch, the whole network will be down. These are examples of some network intrusion, and here is a diagram that shows some hacker trying to hack from an external network the internal network that contains his victim through the internet. So by now we have introduced the meaning of risk and the possibilities and the risks of network intrusion. Thank you.